Why are you seeing this video? You might think it's because you were interested in the title or because the thumbnail caught your eye. It's not that. That might be why you clicked on it, but why was it there for you to click on in the first place? Of the thousands of videos uploaded to YouTube every hour, why did this one appear on your homepage? It's not because you're subscribed either. Many of you won't be. There isn't just one reason, but there is one main reason, a metric that YouTube tracks and places above all others when deciding how far to push a video and therefore how many homepages it lands on. It's what YouTube calls audience retention, and there's a problem with it. Now, this isn't another YouTuber blaming the big bad algorithm and saying, poor me, I deserve more views. For me, as a creator, audience retention is just a challenge to negotiate. If I don't like it, I can get a job, right? But for me as a viewer, for society as a whole, it's at best inadequate and at worst, a toxic system by which to judge videos that has us all marching steadily in a pacified trance of overstimulation away from our intellectual potential and toward a zombified future of surface level interaction with all that we consume. Let me explain why it's kind of fucked up. Imagine you have trouble sleeping, so you take a sleeping pill. You wake up, you check the time. Wow, a full 8 hours for the first time in forever. But you don't quite feel like you thought you'd feel after a good sleep. Not quite so refreshed or clear-minded as you expected. And the reason for your confusion is because you are basing expectations on quantity of sleep, whilst failing to consider the quality of that sleep. You see, sleeping pills don't really put you to sleep. They sedate you, at least at first. So your eyes might be closed for 8 hours, but this isn't 8 hours worth of genuine restorative slumber. And just as having your eyes closed doesn't mean you're sleeping, having them open doesn't mean you're paying real attention. Gauging the value of a video by the duration of time somebody's eyes are pointed at it for makes this same mistake by failing to distinguish between quantity of attention and quality of attention. In fact, it fails to recognize there are different types and degrees of attention at all. In doing so, it conflates passive observance with active engagement. Stimulation-induced hypnosis becomes equally as valuable as deep focus. States that exist at opposite ends of the attention spectrum become equal in the eyes of YouTube. What this means is that any level of nuance, any subtlety, complexity, anything slightly deeper than surface level has to be wrapped up in a stimulating package in order to maximize audience retention. In an ideal world, videos could cater only to the target audience. But on YouTube, you have to also cater to the unintended audience to even stand a chance of reaching the intended one. Reach both or risk reaching none. Because although many of you will have managed to evade most of the effects of brain rot with your attention span still intact and won't reflexively skip to the next video if I don't flash visuals at you and drown this in sound effects, YouTube doesn't care about many of you. It cares about all of you. So even if only those people who need that stimulating wrapper switch off, that's enough to affect the audience retention and for YouTube to deprioritize the video, hindering it even from reaching the actual people who would appreciate it. As a creator, you could and should see this simply as an artistic and intellectual challenge. Whatever you have to say, find a way to make it engaging. That's not unreasonable. We always work within constraints, and that can be part of the fun. Still, it's inevitable that en masse, the quality of content available to us will gradually degrade, because the more nuanced the message, the more potential off-ramps there are for people's attention, the more work needed to package it in an algorithm-satisfying way. Ultimately, the more difficult it becomes for the creator to articulate effectively. This disincentivizes informative content that requires intricate explanation, political or economic discussion that requires balanced objectivity, philosophical content that compels thoughtful contemplation. Idealistically, we'd love to be led solely by passion and purpose, where everyone just makes the content they love and that's it. But if you want to live in a better world, you can't rely on idealism. You have to create incentives that align common good with individual reward. And this is the opposite of what the audience retention metric creates. The result is that you are recommended videos that merely hold attention, irrespective of the type of attention. The result is that thing you actually clicked on the video for being buried 90% of the way into it after the presenter tells you 11 times they're about to get to it. The result is that creators stop making videos on topics that can't be elucidated in brief, simple sentences, or they continue but dumb it down into bite-sized pieces so they can hack it up into shorts later. The result is a trend towards crude, simplistic content that's easy to create but dressed up in drama, embellished with sensationalism or some other appeal towards a visceral, immediate reaction, as opposed to appealing on grounds of intellectual or artistic depth. The result is that we lose opportunities to learn or to be inspired or to have some obscure human emotion coaxed out of us by content that is now inaccessible, lost in the ether, relegated to the graveyard of deprioritized videos in favor of the highest watch time content. I think this makes us dumber, shallower, more reactionary, less thoughtful, really less civilized. And why? Why must we suffer this cultural decline? Because capitalism is kind of making us dumb, unsophisticated, and uncultured on this and many other fronts. Before I explain, I think I should clarify that I'm not some kind of anti-capitalist in most senses. I am pro-capitalism. What I'm against is the far reaches, the end stage symptoms where it becomes this twisted, depraved version that stops making our lives better and starts making them worse. Specifically, it's the capitalism-fueled obsession with endless growth that we all now have to live with and are consciously or subconsciously compelled to take part in, because quarterly financial reports mean companies like Google and Meta have to report to shareholders and tell them some numbers that were bigger than the numbers they told them 3 months ago. And all anybody ever really asks is, are these numbers bigger than the other numbers? And nobody ever really stops to ask, are these numbers big enough now?
The numbers are bigger.
These companies are bound to the religion of growth at all costs, so will never willingly make the culturally beneficial choice unless by chance that aligns with the financially beneficial one. They will never say, that's actually enough profit. They need more eyes glued to more content for longer periods of time so they can charge more advertisers more money for more exposure, and once every 3 months they can say higher numbers, which were already so high as to be quite fucking arbitrary. Of course, the individual has some responsibility. I could and do often choose to make videos that I know will get fewer views and make less money than others, like this one. I make that sacrifice within reason, not from a moral high ground, but solely for the self-preservation of sanity. But the reason I can make that choice is because I can do what corporations that are beholden to shareholders can't. I can look at my earnings and say, that's actually fine. If I make the same amount of money this quarter as I did last quarter, that's okay. Actually, cover your ears, 10x bros. I could make less, and I actually don't have to be consumed with the insecure notion that just because it was less this month, it might be zero soon. I don't have to be a slave to the notion of growth over everything, but I am one person, and still I compromise more than I'd like to. And it's not just YouTube that's destined for decline. We're already there with movies, which have gotten undeniably, objectively worse, partly because they need to make more profit by catering to a wider audience, which means reaching non-native speaking countries. And if English isn't your first language, you might not comprehend and appreciate all the subtle parts of dialogue that come from tone, inflection, silence, the parts that are often more important than the words, the parts that make characters and relationships and scenes actually connect with a viewer. So films become more slapstick, more obvious, more digestible for a wider audience, more mass appeal. And that's the key term, really, mass appeal. Everything, not just media, but also the products available to us, is becoming less targeted, less specialized, and more mass appeal. So what can we do about it? There's only one thing, really. We can refuse to take part. As creators, we can refuse to be shackled to the endless pursuit of more. We can make the videos we want to make that we find personally engaging and let the chips fall where they may, even if that means making less money. Because I think if you do that and you lean into it, you'll still probably make enough money. And isn't it better to make enough money doing fun shit than to make more than enough doing not fun shit? And as an audience, we might have to refuse to be fed and instead go looking for the content we want to consume. None of this will change things on a grand scale because the inertia is just too strong. But that is simply the societal pendulum swinging too far in one direction, as it always does. And one day, hopefully soon, when we're all sick of AI-generated content and sick of being patronized by politicians and the media with simplistic framing of complex issues, and sick of fucking superhero movies, and when the gaping void where real human experience should be becomes so big its gravity begins to pull us back, the pendulum will begin to swing in the other direction. Guess you just gotta hold out and endure until then. Maybe try and have a bit of fun, because it could be a while. Honestly, just fuck AI, man.